Hi, my name is Jonathan Garcia, and today I am going to be talking about Bed Bath & Beyond. The reason why I went ahead and selected this organization is because of what's been going on over the course of recent years with how this company has been operating and performing. In the case of Bed Bath & Beyond, they are currently in risk of going out of business, and this is because of their financial soundness as being the area that they are underperforming in. The reasons for this is because of trends over the past couple of decades with a decline in brick and mortar stores. E-commerce has really taken over the retail space and sector. On top of that, you also had that effect compounded by the COVID lockdowns. People were just mainly shopping online, as well too with the COVID lockdowns, we then created supply chain issues with suppliers not being able to get the necessary supplies to the people that were ordering them and getting it to them on time. On top of this is then resulted in underperforming on earnings calls and then also taking on excessive debt. Now with Bed Bath & Beyond, one of the things for their financial soundness that they're really lacking in is their debt to equity ratio. This ratio is a ratio that we use in the financial world that basically helps determine and measure how a company stands with regards to how much debt they've incurred from borrowing uh, against the assets that they currently have available to them. In the case of Bed Bath & Beyond, their debt to equity ratio was a 2.99, uh, and that was as of this past August. Now, when you have a negative number for your debt to equity ratio, that means that the company itself actually has more debt than assets at that time. Furthermore, poor earnings. Over the past earnings calls, the company has missed forecasted earnings for where they were expected to be. In the case here, what we're looking at is EPS or earnings per share. What that is another ratio we use in finance to really measure and see how the profits break down uh, and are applied to each of the stockholders for each of the outstanding common shares of that particular stock. In the case of Bed Bath & Beyond, our EPS here was a negative 1.59, and that was what they were supposed to be estimated coming in as for this previous earnings call. However, they actually ended up coming in at a negative 3.22. Now, when you have a negative EPS, that means that the company itself is actually losing money. And with regards to the forecasted EPS for Bed Bath & Beyond, they're actually forecasted to continue to have a negative EPS for the next 4 quarters as well. The current structure of Bed Bath & Beyond is a semi-traditional top-down organizational structure where we have the CEO, underneath them you have the VPs, and then we're going to have the general managers that oversee specific areas, and underneath them you have all of the store managers within their particular areas. Then underneath the store managers you're going to have the supervisors, and then finally at the very bottom we're going to have the sales associates. The stores do operate kind of semi-autonomously, with the store manager actually being given a pretty good amount of autonomy, where the store manager is actually the one that the company relies on with finding suppliers and then also ordering the inventory that that particular store is going to be selling and offering at their store. This means that each Bed Bath & Beyond has a completely different range of offerings as opposed to some of their other fellow sister stores. Conscious capitalism. For this, I went ahead and I stated that the company definitely did for sure start by doing this when they went ahead and at first hired their former CEO, who was an executive at Target, to kind of help right the wrongs that the company has done and help get the company back on track. However, I stated that the company would then later on lose sight of this practice and philosophy by recklessly borrowing and then really just not kind of really getting a handle on what the situation was. We then kind of also had the scandals with the leadership as well too, and so the CEO would then later be let go by the board since they weren't seeing any of the needed changes that the board was hoping that the CEO would bring. And then also you had the CFO who was actually named in the case for pumping and dumping scandal. In finance, what this means is you collude with other people to basically talk up a particular security with the hopes of just getting the price to rise so that way you can then sell at a better price of what it is now. This then led to the CFO then just committing suicide since they were about to be charged with this count of securities fraud. What I would go ahead and do to help bring the needed change to help the company survive is I would go ahead and close underperforming stores, and as a result, that would mean I would have to actually let go of some staff, just so we can kind of go ahead and help create some additional needed liquidity to kind of pay down some of that debt that we have. Additionally, focus on creating good product value and product offerings, and then really building our online presence since this is the area that we're really hurting. Lastly, as well too, I would standardize our product offerings and kind of really move away from the store managers picking what the stores are going to be selling. This way it would help reduce the inventories and then also kind of standardize all of our suppliers. That way we can build a good working relationship with them as well too. And then since we're going to be cutting staff, that means our current staff that we are going to be keeping and maintaining, we're going to have to invest in them so that that way they can really help us realize this needed change. Some of the hurdles is there's always going to be a natural resistance to change. With that, my plan is to really just follow Nodder's 8-step plan for doing that, and really just making sure that we build a good coalition. We create the sense of urgency that's needed to get this done. Making sure we pull out all the pins and obstacles that would stop any of our initiatives that we're trying to launch, and then really then solidifying these policy changes into making them our standard operating procedures. Additionally, as well too, we're going to be having some difficulty with reducing our inventory. With this, I plan on still offering our 20% coupon that the company offers in, since that's just going to help bring in some additional people into our stores. And then lastly, just really standardizing our inventory and suppliers. That's going to be a work in progress, and this isn't going to be something that happens overnight. It's going to be a long relationship that we're going to have to establish with the supplier. The lessons learned here from this situation is to always practice responsible borrowing and financial strategies. In events like this, it's always critical that you establish and follow risk mitigators so that way you're not borrowing more than what you are actually taking in. And then lastly as well too, ensuring that we always constantly evolve. What originally started as Bed Bath & Beyond strategy for success in their early years ended up being their downfall with creating too much clutter that really kind of turned some customers away. And so by standardizing everything and really just looking at where the times are going, we can make sure that we capitalize on those changes to remain relevant.